Hello, I'm Ceri Griffiths and this is Katy Designs, and I want to introduce you to the techniques I've used for the latest addition to the Creative Cake system, that being the good old bubbles and pearls mold. How stunningly detailed is this? Okay, beautiful, lots and lots of different variations for use in this, but I just want to show you from the get-go exactly how I used it to get perfect impressions every time. So let's put the mold to one side a second. First of all, bring it away in scales. My recommended weight for paste for this mold is actually 75 grams, and I'm using an adjusted or a modified paste, a paste that's had Tylose or CMC added to it. We do have a video from Ceri Designs which should show you how I modified my paste, but a lot of it will depend on your brands of Tylose powder and your brands of sugar paste or fondant as to the combination, but you need a firm enough paste that it will hold up as you handle it. So I've got 75 grams, let's move that to one side here. Preparing our mold. There are two options. You can wipe it with white vegetable fat or you can dust it with corn flour or cornstarch. I tend to put a really light dusting of corn flour or cornstarch into the main body, tap out the excess, and then I found this area here, if I take a little bit of white vegetable fat, it's not 100% necessary, but I've got very hot and sticky hands, and I found that for me personally, those two areas, if I've got that little bit of white vegetable fat in, it just aids me. So move my mold now, it's prepared out the way. I'm going to take my piece of paste, I've rolled it into a log, and then I'm going to roll my 75 grams of paste into a rough shape that's going to fit within the mold. Now, I'm not being picky that I want it exactly the dimensions of the mold, but I do want it so it's at least close to it. So we know we've got a pointed area there, pull that down a bit, reshape it until it's right, choose your best side, which is that side for me. So I've got my mold in place. I'm then going to lay it onto my mold. Now I'm going to work from one end to the other. If you start in the middle, you're going to end up having to clean up all around, but this way you'll start and you'll finish with a clean piece. So I work on this one corner first, and I work the paste down into there so it's nice and neat. Then I'm going to push down quite firmly, working my way along, moving the paste ahead of me so I get a really good impression. There are parts of this mold that are quite deep, and I want to get the really nice cabochon shape to those bubbles and pearls, and that way if I press down firmly I'll capture them. Now I can start by working my way up and across the mold. I don't want to start up there, I want to make sure I'm working from the bottom, and as you can see I'm cleaning the edges as I go. That way I'm consistently having the paste move ahead of me. Now at the end you're probably going to come in and tidy up the sides a little bit anyway, but do the best you can. The essence is pushing down. One thing I would say is once you've done this, do not reach for a rolling pin and roll it with a rolling pin, because you'll find you'll probably end up with double impressions all over the place because of the multiple depths within the mold. You'll get more than a suitable impression if you work it with your fingers. So as you can see, work it up into all of these corners. Get it in there. As you can see, 75 grams of paste is just enough. Sometimes if you pressed harder, you might have to clean the top edge. If you're going to clean it, use your thumb just to swipe it off. But as you can see, that measurement of paste is almost exactly the right amount. It's easier to put the right amount in than it is to actually try and remove all of the excess. So there we go. So that's in the mold. Make sure I can see all of the edges of the mold all the way around there. So I've got the detail, I have no fringing, and again on this part here, which is quite important because that matches this, so that when we have the pieces matching up we can join them almost seamlessly. Now I have found in my experience that starting from this corner to take it out of the mold is the best way. So flip the mold over, pull back that one corner and just catch the corner of the molded piece down and gently roll it back on itself. Now depending on your brand of paste and how much Tylose you've got, some paste may be softer than others, so treat it with a bit of respect. But as you can see, peeling it back, peeling it back, peeling it back, and out of the mold it comes. Because you've got Tylose powder in there, you can pick it up, you can move it around. I mean, look at all the detail caught in that. I usually leave my paste for a few minutes on a bit of kitchen paper or kitchen towel to firm up, just so I can handle it even more. Because of this demonstration, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to move straight on with it. So let's move that to one side. And let's bring out a cake I've already added the piece to. So as you can see here on the overhead, it's already attached, and I've attached it with a little cooled boiled water, or you could actually use a bit of edible glue. Now, on this cake, this is a 4-inch cake. I designed it so it just comes around the top. Once I've attached this piece, I'll show you what you can do. It can be trimmed down to any height you wish it to be. So I now need to attach the next piece of paste into this one. I can come in from either the bubble end, or I can come in from the smooth end. So let's come in with a bit of the moisture. I tend to moisten the cake and not the moulded piece, and I do that because if I actually do the moulded piece and then pick it up, I'll end up with glue on the back of my hands, and I don't want to do that. I come up to this edge, I know it's going to come over the top, but I can actually just glue it first and then add a little bit of extra glue afterwards. So if I put that down, this is not sat enough, it's sat a while but not enough, but I can just come in, slot these pieces together, gently press it up, and I'll lift this up in a second to see whether we can see the dot. I've just left that there because I want to look at this join. Now, because of the flexibility of the paste, I can just move that slightly and it will butt up against, and the coating underneath would probably be the same colour anyway. I've used darker colours here, guys, just for the beauty of camera, so it gets a good shot. Now, this here, because of the design, it will fold in on itself. What I do is I take my glue brush and I run it along the inside of the panel, like so. I attach the corners and then I gently encourage it to come down, and because of the flexibility within the moulded piece, you will get a beautiful seamless top edge. Now, because of the amount of detail in this mould, you'll probably find it hard to see it if you just leave it flush. If you want to enhance it even more, I would highly recommend taking a bit of dusting powder. I'm using a pearl dusting powder here. So this is just a pearl dust powder. I could use a satin, I could use a silk, I could use whichever one I want. So if I come in, I'll just do a section just to pull this together, and I'll leave the bits next to it undusted just so you can see the comparison of the two. Now, if I was doing this on a real cake and I was going to dust it, I wouldn't put it on my drum. I would leave the cake separate until all of the dusting was finished and mount or stack my tiers afterwards. Therefore, I wouldn't have any fallout onto the tier below or the drum below. So if I tip this up now, you can see beautiful shimmer on there compared to the non-shimmer. Now this can be dusted with colours, it can be airbrushed, it could be painted, you could paint it golds, metallics, anything you wish. I mean, the world is your oyster when it comes to using a moulded piece. So if I put that to one side now, and let's bring in the finished cake. And as I said, I actually did different heights with this, so I'm going to tip the cake so we can see with the overhead for the best example. So I just demonstrated on a 4, this is a 5-inch, so the 5-inch, as you can see, it comes just to the top of the mould of the cake. It's a 5-inch tall mould. As you can see, I actually made a plaque of it as well, a great use of it to add a little bit of detail, and at the top all I did was I cut the top section of the mould off and used it as a shallower border. So very, very different ways of using it. Let's take one more look at the mould and explain what I did. So this bubble border is at the top. This straight is the piece that would naturally be on the board or on the drum. However, if you turned it up the other way, you could have the bubbles and pearls coming down from the top edge, and that would match the top edge of your cake. This, however, is where I would cut it. So let's use my rolling pin. So this is a 5-inch, so I could cut it to say a 4-inch or a 3-inch or a 2-inch, or I could cut it to be a really thin border, but it would maintain the detail and it would carry the theme through. And don't forget, you could do a piece of this and actually cut cookie shapes out of this. As I did for the plaque, you could cut cookie shapes out of this and carry the theme on through. So that was the latest addition to the Creative Cake system, and this is the Bubbles and Pearls mould. Very, very versatile mould. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do with it, and I hope that my hints and tips have helped you. Remember, 75 grams of adjusted or modified sugar paste or fondant. That just is a sugar paste or a fondant with a little bit of Tylose added into it. You can either use cornstarch, corn flour or white vegetable fat to lubricate or make your mould not stick at all to any of your paste. The Tylose to the sugar paste or fondant ratio will change depending on what brands you're using. The one thing I would say is once you've got your paste in the mould, don't roll it, because if you roll it you're likely to cause a ripple effect and you'll get double impressions on it. And also, as you're putting the paste in, work from one end of the mould, press down quite firmly and clean as you go, and you'll have a beautiful textured panel to add to anything you wish. So, thank you very much, and it's goodbye from Ceri Griffiths.